Part 11. Rat and Leader were making good time until they found the cocooned boy, mouth agape and reddened eyes staring. The empty egg at his feet told the tale. Rat froze. "Daddy, what did you do to brother?" as Leader approached the child. He looked so much like her brother. "Jesus, he's still alive," Leader winced, reaching behind his back to unsheathe his blade. Rat lurched forward. "No, Daddy!" But it was over. The death rattle was barely audible. Blood splashed from the boy's chest, a wriggling within. Leader fired into the slender ribcage. He shook his head, fighting the wave of revulsion, and whispered, "Come on, Rat, I need you with me." Rat stared at the boy's still face. Her agony was punctuated by Ear's warning. "Two hostiles doubling back into your proximity." Though shaken, Rat rallied. She instinctively cocked her head, trying to locate the soft, insidious movement from above. "More moving into range, 100 yards behind you." Rat spotted the tear in the conduit wall ahead of them. The first alien slid in with alarming grace and speed, despite its size. It reared to its full height, arms spread like an angel of death, pausing as its obsidian companions climbed down behind it. Rat tipped her muzzle up and fired. She was still dazed, putting her first shot off, shattering the alien's knee. The impact sent it reeling, but its tail snapped into lethal play, lashing Rat across the chest and slapping her down. Leader rushed into position beside her, rifle blazing. Rat heard him shout something as she righted herself. One of the creatures plunged onto him, and they spun out of view through the ruptured wall. She heard them crash below, Leader's shout swallowed by gunfire. Rat tore a length of wire out of her hip gear and leaped onto the alien closest to her. Despite its angry thrashing, she held long enough to lock her knees around its midsection, straddling it as she twisted the wire around the pearly girth of its head. Rat pulled the line taut and let herself fall back. The monster fell with her, hissing. It raged to right itself as Rat tied the wire to secured piping, the rapid motion sinking the wire through her worn gloves and into her palm. Resisting the pain, she made sure it was tight before rolling clear. The hellish thing shot its arm towards her. Rat came to her feet as the alien clawed at the wire. She swung her rifle down off her shoulder, pausing only to be certain of its load. Gauging the distance to the opening Leader had vanished into, she made the leap. The alien dove to have her, the wire held, closing over the creature's canescent flesh and cutting deep. Still it thrashed forward, the noose closed completely, severing the back of its head in a dappled spurt. The wire glowered and dissolved in a spray of acidic blood, but it had done its work. The alien's tail coiled over the wound spastically, its jaws wide in the death scream. Before Rat could reach the opening, the other one was on her. Its talons had her head, thumbs locked over thumb, its lips peeled back. "No, Daddy," baring jaws, silver and beckoning. "Don't kiss me." The inner jaws darted from between the rivulets of chrome saliva and teeth. Rat rammed her rifle up into the lower jaw, severing the protruding tongue as it sank into her cheekbone. The monster bolted back in pain. Rat went with it, the inner jaws tearing free of her face, her head strangely clear. As they hit the conduit flooring, she slammed the rifle into its jaws again. Droplets of acid sprayed over her like venomous dew, riddling her torn face and chest with spongy dots of fire. The alien was lost in its own agony, its hands closed over its leaking maw. Rat hobbled up onto her knees, using her rifle as a support. As she did so, the alien's tail lashed out, smashing her into the wall like a rag doll. It caught her, opening its ruined jaws as if to strike. Rat twisted free, the talons tearing skin and uniform. Again its tail, the stinger biting into Rat's thigh, moving to stab between her legs as she lost her footing. And suddenly she was falling away from the monster. Rat braced herself for the moment of impact, but it came with blessed, soft ease as she landed in the dry garbage hold with a rustling of paper and plastic. Rat turned to look up at the alien teetering above her. A crimson dew, her blood, shimmered on its phallic skull. The head moved with the glacial hypnotic flow of a cobra, but the metallic iris closing above her moved more quickly to seal the waste disposal chamber. The monster thrust its hands into the dilating closure as if to force it open, pulling its talons back just as the iris slid shut. "Gotcha!" Ears shouted into her headset. Rat closed her eyes, drawing in a short, deep breath, opening her lids with the slow exhalation until the air was spent. "You're in a dry waste disposal chute," Ears said. "I was able to locate you and close the airlock above you. Your PDT registers all vital signs stable. You're all right." Her breathing steadied, slowed. As it did, her head relaxed against the garbage mattress that had saved her. She let her head tip to the side, her gnawed cheek and torn chest now rich with pain and blood, her pitted chest afire. She brought her free hand up, tentatively, running a single finger over the wounds, cautiously trying to assess the damage. She opened her eyes. The dim light caught what seemed to be a mirror beside her, slick with oil. "Rat," came a whisper in her ear. "Rat, please reply." She reached out to touch the object. The motion was comforting. She was alive, despite the pain in her head and the frightening numbness in her leg. Her fingers caught it, the surface cool and slippery, and lifted it out of the debris. Rat strained to roll over and examine the object. The light from above, however dim, shone through it. It was translucent, a piece of film. She brought her arm around to her torch. Turning it on, she held the film over its glare, recognizing it as an X-ray, showing a male body, a dark, spidery shape within it. "Rat, we are receiving, do you hear me?" A male adult's body, and a mass within. She heard a deeper voice, Bort's voice, Ears replying to it. Then he was talking to her, his voice strangely tender. "Rat, what is that on the screen?" "Film," she whispered. She had seen an X-ray like this before, in her father's laboratory, years ago. Her brother. He had planted the seed in her brother. "Rat, this could be important," Ears replied. "Is there any date or identification visible? Is there a name on the X-ray?" Her eyes brimmed with tears. The type, so small. "Cot. Low." Suddenly the headset sparked with voices. Rat could no longer follow or separate them. In the distance, a baby wailed.